Is Xbox out of the hardware business? Are we seeing the end of them because they're allegedly going to be releasing their titles like Starfield and Indiana Jones on other platforms? Let's talk about that and so much more in the latest episode of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. Oh, what's up, everybody? It's Mekel Kasanova, host of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. I know if you're looking behind me, you're going to be like, hey, this is a completely different layout. And it is, because while I was out and about filming, real life locations for my Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth review, I just started getting bombarded with all these notifications on Twitter or X or, whatever have you, about something that was going on. And it was pretty much all this information regarding, Xbox, allegedly because of something from Xbox era saying that they were going to be getting out of the, hardware, and they're going to be moving their stuff like Starfield and Indiana Jones to the PlayStation 5, and potentially other, other first party titles. So people were speculating that this could be, Gears of War and Halo and Forza and more going to PlayStation. And the other rumors about this were that this was going to lead towards PlayStation being the only real major console there, because Xbox is going to go third party. And again, I brought this up before. When it comes to information like this that comes out, you have to be very careful about that information. You have to really be, scrutinizing it. I know everyone's talking about it, and it got to such a insane level of a discussion that Xbox actually had to officially announce that they were going to respond and let the audience know what's going on. We saw the email, not the email, but there was a tweet from Phil Spencer, and he said, "We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned." So you had that, and I'm going to read this article from Sports Illustrated Video Games, because this is, and I'm going to try and find a way to showcase this on screen as I'm doing it, because I'm doing this from the Mac, as I was going to say earlier. Different background because I'm recording this in the living room. Literally have been all over the place. So I'm like, hey, I need to get here, record this, get this podcast out to you guys. So I'm going to report on it because it is coming from, this is also Sports Illustrated. It's a very reputable sports news outlet, but the fact that they're talking about this means that there's some credence behind it. Also because of the fact that Phil Spencer is commenting in a way, acknowledging what's the talk, the narrative that's going around. Let's go ahead and go with this. This is written by Josh Brodell, or Brodwell. He says, Phil Spencer promises response to Xbox games on PlayStation rumors. Xbox head Phil Spencer said on Twitter that he and his team have a response to the Xbox games on PlayStation and PC rumors, but they aren't ready to issue it just yet. Spencer made the comments almost a day after an unverified report from Xbox Era suggested Microsoft plans to release Starfield on PlayStation 5 and may bring Indiana Jones and other exclusives to non-Xbox platforms as well. We're going to go ahead and just jump on into this Xbox Era post. It really got a lot of people talking. So this is an article Xbox Era dropped on February 5th, and it was written by John Clark X, and it says exclusive. Microsoft plans Starfield launch for PlayStation 5. And then we go into the article. It says, for many weeks now, rumors have persisted regarding Microsoft's intentions to release a number of first-party titles, namely Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, on rival platforms. According to our sources, who have asked to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about company plans. Sorry, I had to do that because my cat's over here moving the bowl. Move, Buster. There we go. Pets, right? Anyway, it says, according to our sources who have asked to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about company plans, the list of games includes Bethesda Game Studios' Starfield. Starfield released back in August of 2023 to fairly positive reception despite the narrative that now exists online, and was the biggest Bethesda game launch of all time, surpassing 6 million players within a week of release. Now it looks as though Microsoft are planning to bring Bethesda's newest RPG universe to an entirely new platform, PlayStation 5. It says, according to sources, we understand that currently Microsoft are planning a launch for Starfield on PlayStation 5 post the release of the already announced Shattered Space expansion for Xbox and PC, which is on target to arrive at some point later this year. We've also been informed that Microsoft have made additional investment into PlayStation 5 dev kits to support ongoing development efforts, adding further fuel to the fire. As the already existing rumors have suggested, the idea of bringing first-party titles to competing console platforms marks a massive change in strategy for Microsoft, and from what I understand, it's not been without fierce internal debate on this new direction. Releasing Starfield on PlayStation 5 contradicts the original statement around exclusivity made by President of Xbox Sarah Bond during the Xbox and Bethesda Game Studios Summer Showcase of 2021. All right, so this is a quote that she said. It is awesome to share with you for the very first time one of the most anticipated games in the world from Todd Howard and the team at Bethesda Game Studios. A groundbreaking game, and yes, it's exclusive. This is from Sarah Bond, president of Xbox, and this is what she said at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Studios 2021 showcase. So going further into this article from Xbox Era, they state, according to our sources, Microsoft's senior leadership have reportedly debated the various pros and cons of releasing more of their exclusive hardware or software elsewhere. And internally, not everyone is necessarily happy with the decision, but recouping the potential money left on the table by releasing elsewhere has arguably won out. According to sources, Hi-Fi Rush's release on rival platforms is tentatively planned for Q1 this year, and we've been advised to expect Microsoft to make a more public announcement on this strategy this month. How do you feel about Starfield coming to PlayStation 5 after all? Let us know in the comments below. And they did say they reached out to Microsoft Bethesda for comment. So all I gotta say is a great article from John Clark. This right here, very well written, thorough, to the point. Citing sources, again, part of journalistic integrity is you need to cite your sources, or if you're protecting your source, you do let your outlet know that the source wanted to remain anonymous. And then that way that, when S hits the fan, when they start go headhunting looking for who said what to who, they can't really narrow it down. It's going to be a little bit harder, if not impossible, for them to do so. So by notarizing this within the first paragraph, this already leads some credence and where I can say, okay, there's a possibility that there's a lot of truth in this post. Because that's the way you want to when you're writing an article and you have a source. You want to notify the source in the first paragraph or sentence, or you need to notify your audience to maintain journalistic integrity that you are not at liberty to authorize saying who it is. For those who are wondering, there you go. All right, so that's from Xbox Era. Let's go back to Sports Illustrated article. It says, the quote I said earlier, we're listening. We hear you, Spencer said in the tweet. We've been playing a business update event for next week, and we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned. It says the report from Xbox Era was only the latest in a series of similar purported leaks that suggested Xbox planned to release Hi-Fi Rush on Nintendo Switch. It says speculation for the rationale behind this potential shift ranges from the belief that Xbox is abandoning software to the idea that lower Game Pass revenue and console sell through is forcing Xbox into a corner. Whatever Xbox's decision and the reason behind it, the situation is complicated. In 2023, Spencer told GLHF during a roundtable press event that the Xbox is millions of consoles ahead of where they were in the 360 era, widely considered Xbox's most prosperous period. Though that success comes at a cost, Spencer said in 2022 that Xbox sells every console at a loss between $100 to $200. During the 2023 press event, head of Xbox Studios Matt Booty told GLHF that the company measures success by how many people are playing Xbox games, not by how many consoles it sells. Those metrics are what made Xbox's Bethesda and Activision acquisitions important, as they were a way to bring millions of new players to the Xbox ecosystem. The end of this article, I believe is the end of the article, it says, whatever the case and the factors compromising it may be, it's evident changes on the horizon for Xbox. Okay, so that's a lot to take in. Both articles expertly written, chef's kiss. I had no complaints about either one. The fact of the matter is that there's some credibility to this, because if it wasn't, you would not see Xbox making any type of acknowledgement that they're going to talk about the future of Xbox like that. I think there was plans, and going further into that, I think there were plans to move Starfield and Indiana Jones to multi-platform. I think there were plans for that. Potentially. But I know the narrative online has gone that we're looking at the possibility of Halo, Gears of War, and other exclusives, like major titles that are core to the Xbox brand, going to PlayStation. Now, as y'all know, I previously have worked for Microsoft and worked with them too. So my perspective on this whole thing is that, from what I learned when I was working at Microsoft well over a decade ago, the shift was going to being about software sales over hardware, and moving Xbox to as many platforms as possible, with a similar model to Microsoft's Microsoft Office suite. If you guys remember, and I think I've talked about this before, but if you guys remember, there was a point where with Office, you had the Windows version only, because, and I'm not sure how the young folks know, but almost 20 plus years ago, you had Office only on PC, and on Mac you had, their suite. And then they got to a point where we did have Office on Mac, but functionally it was very much nowhere near as good as it was on PC. You had a worse interface, worse experience. Customer support for it was awful. It was a very miserable experience, but if, you worked in a company or you were in school, you had to use Office. And eventually, Microsoft realized, why do we want to, exclude a market we could make money off of? Let's just put our software and give them a one-to-one, bring the parity level from Mac OS to Windows, even kill. And so they did that. And as you know now, you can get Office on everything. Not only Mac, you can get it on Linux. You can get it, on Chrome OS. You can just access it online. So there was a desire for that, right? And then they started making buku money. How many people do you know uses Pages, Keynote, and whatever the hell the other one is? No, it's instilled in you to go with. Sorry, that was my deodorizer. It's instilled in you to go with Office. That's just where that space that Microsoft dominates. No matter what Google tries to do with the G Suite, no matter what Apple does with their productivity suite, the fundamental is they're gonna go. People are gonna go with Office because that's known. They made all that money off of people who are Mac users. Okay, so you got that. And then we're going to look at the fact that they had Windows Phone, right? If y'all remember, if you're old enough to remember or old enough to have remembered and owned one, which I'm that, you had iPhone, which was AT&T exclusive, and then eventually went to Verizon. You had Android, which was everywhere, and all the various variants of Android that was the wild, wild west at that time. And then you had Windows Phone, right? So Windows Phone, and I'm a diehard Windows phone user and fan, or was a user. I haven't had a Windows Phone in close to a decade. But Windows Phone was amazing, at least to me. I love the interface, ease of use, productivity, stuff you could do with it. It was just phenomenal, but it didn't sell. And a lot of the functionalities of Windows Phone we're now seeing in Android and iPhones. And Microsoft's like, instead of us trying to put our apps on our own store that on a platform that's dead and no one's really using, let's take everything on that we're using that's innovative and start putting it on Android. Start putting it on iOS. What's the number one mail used application in the world? Outlook. And it's on both smartphone platforms. Because they're like, all right, let's just support these other platforms. We don't need to do that. I bring all this up because I see Xbox potentially doing something like that. I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon with like the third party. But I do think eventually they're going to do it because they're going to see that there's still the market they can get money off of. Put some of their games, even if it's like this, work with me here. Even if it's like, hey, Nintendo, we're not only going to put Call of Duty on your Nintendo platform, we're also going to start making the Banjo-Kazooie games and Cameo and, all the, bring back another Conquer game, Jet Force Gemini. We're going to bring Perfect Dark not only on Xbox, but we're going to bring it to Switch. Or if they're not going to be in a hardware race, we're going to bring it to the Switch. And we're going to make sure it's PC and Switch. And they're going to make that money. Nintendo would agree to it. Because they would get back up under them quasi rare. Or if Xbox goes to PlayStation and say, hey, yeah, we're going to, we might still have Starfield, Halo, Gears of War and such, on Xbox, but we want to reach a wider demographic of gamers. We're going to put it on your platform. They're going to make money. At the bottom line, if y'all need to know anything about Xbox, Microsoft, and really any for-profit company, because at the end of the day, every one of these companies is about for-profit. They don't give a damn about your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, being an armchair analyst. Even what I'm doing right now, being an armchair analyst, they don't give a damn about any of that. They're for-profit. The bottom line is it needs to make a profit. If it doesn't, it gets cut. And while many may be like, oh, but Valve sells a Steam Deck at a loss, but they're still, they're still doing well. They're still selling so many. Yeah, but this is baked into their ecosystem. You're buying a Steam Deck, you're buying games on Steam. Even if you don't buy a Steam Deck, you're buying games on Steam, which covers whatever overhead there is for making a physical Steam Deck. You know what I mean? That's what that is. And then looking at Xbox, you can already look at Game Pass. You can do Game Pass and remote play on your iPhone, on your Android, on your gaming tablet, your gaming PCs. You can do cloud gaming, and even on certain TVs like Samsung TVs, play directly through the TV. They're making it so that you're getting Xbox everywhere, the same way that they did with Microsoft Office and the Office Suite. That's Satya Nadella, the president of Microsoft. His thing is, why do you think Windows Phone went away? Because he was an iPhone user. Why invest in this is failing? That we're not going to catch that demographic. Let's go ahead and put on all these platforms. I could see that happening. I could see them doing that. Not soon, but eventually. I could see that happening. On the same note, on the same token, there's a possibility they won't do that. We won't know. I mean, even with all the leaks that have come out, we won't ever really, truly, fully know. But, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's a business. No matter what emotional stock and value we put into these companies for us because we're fans of them, we buy their products, we're not on the board. We're not, decision makers. We're not people out here gathering research and data. Whatever they decide to do is what they're going to decide to do. And I know that there's a lot of Xbox fans that have been completely distraught by the article that came out from Xbox Era, which then daisy chained into so many other people, including Sports Illustrated and others, talking about it. There's some diehard Xbox fans out there. And I know being someone that owns an Xbox or plays on the Xbox is not, it's not what it was in the OG Xbox in the 360 era, where, the platform wars, they weren't what they're not what they weren't what they are now, right? So it was cool having an Xbox in the OG era because there was nothing like it. It was the new modern hippie, like not hippie, but hipster thing. There was the platform that gave you, the mature games in many ways that we weren't, super experimental that we weren't even getting on PlayStation or the GameCube. So it was cool. It was edgy. It was a status symbol in a way. In the OG era, the 360 era, it was, more of a thing of like, it was the go-to platform for anything, multi-plats, exclusives, Xbox, and that was my college time. That was my college era. Everybody had a 360. I didn't. I was broke. I was poor. But everyone had a 360. Very rarely were people buying a PlayStation 3 in that generation. PlayStation 3 was hard to develop for. Games ran like shit. And the experience just wasn't great. Bayonetta 3, PlayStation 3 versus Bayonetta on Xbox 360. There's no comparison. There's none. So, it was cool being an Xbox fan back then because that was just the thing. But now being an Xbox fan as of the Xbox One era, which halfway into that, or third, maybe 1/3 to halfway into that, that's when the narrative started being, you're stupid if you had an Xbox, or you have a low IQ if you have an Xbox. And in this generation, it was, what's the point of having an Xbox because Xbox got no games? You were ridiculed for being an Xbox fan. So I understand the people that are emotionally invested in it. It's just a thing. It is what it is. If Microsoft decides to do this, it's for their bottom line. And PlayStation fanboys, the Sony ponies, y'all shouldn't be. And I'm saying this as an Xbox, or not. Well, yeah, I am an Xbox ambassador, but I'm also a PlayStation partner. You can't, or you shouldn't be happy if PlayStation's the only game in town. And when I say only game in town, I mean only big game in town. And the reason for that is because of how negatively that's going to impact. They're going to have such a monopoly. We don't want that. If you're too young to know this, go look at the video game crash, the 1980s, and the iron fist tyranny that Nintendo ran with the gaming industry. So why do you think you had companies like LJN and all these others? Because of how tight of a grip that Nintendo had on gaming. They dominated. You don't want PlayStation to be the only game in town. That's not good for gaming at all. So, will Xbox go third party? I mean, in a way, they already have when they announced that they were going to make sure that Call of Duty is going to stay multi-platform, and they had a partnership with Nintendo. That was already the first clue. But going full third party, we don't know. We don't know. There are PlayStation titles on Xbox. Xbox titles on PlayStation. I don't know. We'll find out when Phil Spencer talks more about it. But what do you guys think of this whole situation? What do you think of this episode of DeckedUP? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure you let us know if you're watching in video format in the comment section down below, or if you're listening in audio format on any of the audio podcast platforms, then, just make sure you leave a rating, comment, feedback, share it, and we'll go from there. Other than that, I got to get up out of here. Hope y'all had a blessed and aloha rest of your day. And I'll see y'all in the next one. I got a whole lot of content coming, so stay tuned. February is a busy month. So I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, have aloha, and I'll see you on the next one. A hui ho.